Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. I'm your host, Tony Fiorino. As you know, each week here on Hey Coach Tony, we tackle the hottest topics in youth sports. And as always, we want to know what you have to say, so we open up the studio lines to hear what's on your mind. The number here in the studio to reach me is 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. Hey, before we get things started this week, I want to give you a quick update on a story that we covered, I guess it was 3-4 weeks ago. I got an email this week from our buddy Steve Kolitz. If you remember the name, Steve is the youth softball umpire / tournament official who tried to come to the aid of an umpire who was being abused by our favorite couple, Terry and Andrea Deenan, over a questionable call at third base. And well, if you remember what he got for stepping in and trying to help? He got himself a nice punch in the jaw by Terry Deenan. Anyway, I got this email from Steve as an update to the story, and I wanted to give you a quick read on it. Hey, Coach Tony, just an FYI, the court case for the Deenans was today. I went in and made a statement. They were granted accelerated rehabilitation. As a condition, each of them has to do 50 hours of community service and are having restrictions in their involvement in youth sports for 1 year. I think my going down and making a statement in the court boosted the action. Their lawyer also mentioned the significant publicity the case got since it was on TV, the radio, and AP picking it up, and the significant embarrassment they feel in their actions. Add that all to the resignations they've submitted with the coaching and the youth programs, and I feel like they probably have or will, pending completion, will have done their time. Coach Tony, thank you for support and suggesting I get involved. Well, no, Steve, thank you. Thank you for your support. Guys like you who continue to give of themselves and try to keep civil order while our kids are playing their games, you're the ones who deserve the credit. So I promise, as long as there are guys like you who are willing to step in and try to do the right thing and help, there are going to be knuckleheads like me with a microphone and a platform to shine a bright light on the true mongols.
Monday morning at 10. Check out The Herd with me, Colin Cowherd. 940 and 1510. Keep it here, ESPN Radio.
Thank you, Colin. What the hell was that?
I don't know why that just played. It just randomly. I didn't click anything. It just played.
Thanks, Adam. Colin Cowherd.
Wow.
That guy has been jealous of me since the second he got on ESPN.
That was very strange.
If he calls back, do not let him through.
I will not do it.
Good to have Adam with us this morning. But hey, like I said, there's going to be the true Mongos who are always going to do the wrong things. And as long as there are guys like Steve Kolitz who are trying to do the right things, I will be on your side, guys, all right? Listen, I'm not sure if you think the Deenans got off easy or if justice was served. But if you got an opinion, listen, I'll take your call on that. So you can call me at 855-HEY-COACH. Personally, you know what? I don't think enough was done here. And this is not what the whole show is going to be about today. But I've said before, and I'll say it again, there are parts of this country where assaulting a youth sports official is a felony, and you can go to jail for it. In my opinion, this type of behavior is only going to stop once somebody actually serves some time for doing it. I would liken this to bullying in our schools, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that. Last night, my wife and I were sitting down watching, I think it was CBS, and there was a special on about bullying at the middle school levels. And you know what? It was a real eye-opener. Did you know that bullying has actually gotten to the point where kids are actually killing themselves because of the torment that they feel on a daily basis at the hands of these pimpled-faced losers who are so insecure about themselves that the only way to make themselves feel good about themselves is to make someone else feel bad? It's really heartbreaking to hear about these kids and the torture that they have to endure just for being a little different. Well, anyway, today's show isn't about bullying. It's not about idiot parents who beat up referees. It's not about Colin Cowherd, calling in to interrupt my show. I only mentioned this last part because, like I said, I think the Deenan case or any parental abuse case and bullying, they have one thing in common, and that is the Coach Tony proposed punishment. You want to see assault on youth officials stop? You want to see bullying stop? Tell you what, you want to see drunk driving stop? There's a simple way to do it. All right, so I got your attention now. The answer here is simply swift and severe punishment. I've said it before, I'll say it again. There is not a hot enough place in hell for people like this, the bullies of the world, the idiots of the world that take it upon themselves to ruin kids' sporting events and physically abuse someone who's trying to keep law and order in place. And I think it's about time we start serving up some hot, fresh justice for those idiots that are actually caught in the act. You got something to say about this? Like I said, I'll take your calls. It's 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. In fact, you know what? Tell you what, we're all sports fans, right? We all believe in the power of sports that can help change the world, right? All right, let's face it. Bullying happens in every single school, regardless of who admits it or chooses not to admit it. Coach Tony has a special offer, and I'm serious about this. I'm currently developing a system in conjunction with the athletic directors and coaching staffs of this school, or each school, I should say, to help eliminate bullying from our schools. Sounds pretty cool, right? Well, I tell you what, the first 2 schools that contact me, and I want you to do this by email. Send me an email at heycoachtony@gmail.com. First 2 schools that contact me, I'm going to offer a free workshop. I'm going to come in, I'll meet with the principal, I'll meet with the AD, I'll meet with your coaching staff, and I will help you guys put a plan in place that is going to eliminate bullying from your school. How's that for an early Christmas gift, huh? Some free Coach Tony, to quote the late great Mel Allen. How about that? All right, back to business this morning. And by the way, I am dead serious about what I just said. I am in the process of developing not a punishment system for bullies, but a true way to eliminate bullying from schools before it begins. I'm not going to get into this in a long-winded way on the air, but I think the current scare tactics and punishment systems aren't really doing the job. Kids are killing themselves over this. So I am dead serious. The first 2 schools that contact me and take me up on this offer, I will meet with your principal, your AD, your coaching staff, and we're going to put a plan in place at your middle school or high school or whatever school you need, and we're going to put bullying back in its place. Promise you. All right, like I said, back to business. Last week on the show, you may remember, I was truly honored to have 3 distinguished football coaches on the show. And I've gotten a bunch of emails during the week. I even got comments from some of the staff here at the studio about how much everybody enjoyed last week's show. And I'm glad you did, because I went home feeling really great about football coaches, and the future had never seemed brighter. Well, wouldn't you know it, just when I'm feeling good about something, something else has to come along and ruin it. Just when I'm dancing on air during the week and I'm exuberant about football coaches, I come across a couple of stories that make me wonder if some football coaches are just the biggest bold-faced liars walking the earth, and if they have any place at all being in front of our kids, helping to shape their lives. Well, I got 2 stories for you, and I hope you're as shocked as I was when I read them. The first one comes to us from Lincoln Park, Illinois. It's a Chicago suburb. In Lincoln Park, Illinois, there was a local high school was forced to forfeit its game last Saturday. Matter of fact, it was right after the show, because a player who was supposed to be serving a suspension was in uniform at the game, but wearing a different jersey. Sounds kind of stupid, and it is. The Chicago Public League Sports Administration Director suspended the player and the coach. That they don't name the player because, again, these stupid kids, they're always protected because of their age. And I don't have this kid's name, and I can probably dig, but I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But they did mention the coach's name. Coach is a guy by the name of Jerome Hildreth. He is a first-year coach at Lincoln Park High School. So bottom line is the player in question and Coach Hildreth were both suspended for Lincoln Park's next game, and it turns out that during there's a pending investigation, and the penalty for the coach could actually be much worse if it's determined that the player actually did play in the game. So there's still an ongoing investigation here. Here's where it starts to get a little nauseating. You want to know what the coach told the league officials? This is what got me. Adam, you're going to dig this. The coach said the kid was not at the game to his knowledge. I mean, are you kidding me? He's not saying the kid didn't play. He's not saying, his first statement wasn't that, wow, different uniform, I got confused. He's saying the kid wasn't even there. I mean, is this possible? I mean, what kind of coach is this? Anyway, in case you're wondering why the kid wasn't supposed to be playing in the first place, that's information that I do have. It turns out that this kid was ejected from the previous game. And according to local league rules, that triggers an automatic one-game suspension. So obviously, we're already dealing with an upstanding member of society to begin with. This kid, for some reason, got himself ejected from a football game already. So far, this kid is staring right down the barrel of strike three. Got ejected from one game, was suspended for the next game, dressed for that game, and so now is suspended for the following game. This is a 3-game saga that's going on in this lovely little suburb of Chicago. All right, well, you think the ridiculous quotes stop there? Well, guess again. Coach Hildreth quickly retracted his cock and bull story on Tuesday when, over the phone in an interview, he did admit that the player played in the first half. But he went on to say that he didn't know it until halftime. All right, well, now, as I'm reading through all this research that I did, I'm finally saying to myself, okay, great. The coach got caught, and he's going to come clean, he's going to fall on his sword, and he's going to deal with the circumstances. How refreshing. Yeah, right. The coach went on to say that the kid was wearing a different number, and here's where it just gets plain old stupid. He said the kid was wearing a different number because it was a newly repaired jersey. Come on. This is starting to sound like, listen, I'm a father of 3 young kids, and my youngest is 10 years old. This is starting to sound a lot like when you catch a kid in an obvious lie, and instead of just saying, which is, by the way, all we parents want, if any kids are listening, when you get caught in a lie, all we want as parents is for you to say, okay, I'm sorry, and it's over. But instead, what do you stupid kids do all the time when you get caught in a lie? What do? You make up a new lie to cover up the one before it, and before you know it, you are 6 lies into a story that you can't even remember yourself. I mean, this is really starting to sound pathetic. If you got something to say about this, 855-HEY-COACH is the hotline here in the studio. But while I am waiting for your calls, I'm going to go to an email that I got. I got it on Friday, I guess it was. I got it from Carl in Reading. By the way, the email, if you want to get something to me, is heycoachtony@gmail.com. But anyway, Carl writes and says, Hey, Coach Tony, how does a coach not know who is in attendance at a game and who is missing? And even if ignorance were an excuse here, you can't tell me there isn't foul play involved when the suspended kid is wearing a different jersey. I'm no genius, but where does a kid get a team jersey? Probably the coach. So either the kid stole a jersey or the coach gave him one. No matter how you slice it, these guys just got caught and deserve whatever punishment they get. Well, I tell you what, Carl, thank you, but apparently you left out one way that a kid can get a jersey. He can get a newly repaired one. What the hell's a repaired jersey anyway? I mean, does this team have like a team tailor on the sidelines or something who's sewing up rips in the jerseys when they happen? All right. Listen, I'm going to have some more fun with this story, but we're going to have to go to a quick break. But before I do, I want to remind you all that Hey Coach Tony is starting to move. We're starting to move more and more of our post-show stuff over to Facebook. So if you're a fan of the show, go be a fan of the page. Be sure to look for us on Facebook. You search for Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. There you can get a jump start on the topics for the week. You can suggest your own topics for the show. You can nominate your athlete of the week, your coach of the week. There's a section on the left side where you can click to watch videos of our past shows. Whatever you need when you're not listening live, you can get it on our Facebook page. So again, search Facebook for Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. By the way, I want to remind you, next week I think we're going to talk a little bit about coaches and how they handle cuts, the merits of having a B team, and a couple of other things that are in the face of all us parents and coaches right now. But we're going to go to a quick break. You're listening to Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. Stick around.
Coach Tony.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're with Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio this lovely Saturday morning. Actually, it's not lovely. Who hit the switch on autumn, man? I got in the car this morning. It was 49 degrees. I'm not ready yet. All right, anyway, we're talking this morning about a Coach Hildreth out of Lincoln Park, Illinois, who apparently allowed a suspended player. We can't say he allowed. One of his players was suspended for the game. The kid was caught in uniform playing at the game. And when I say in uniform, it was in a different uniform. So this lovely young gentleman was actually disguising himself to play in a game where he was supposed to be suspended after he was ejected from the game before. And now this resulted in him being suspended for yet one more game. Hey, kid, life is too short. A high school football season is done in the blink of an eye. You're an idiot. You should have taken your medicine and just sat there and shut up. Anyway, the quotes that I'm getting in this article are just ridiculous. Like I said, the coach said he immediately did wasn't me. In other words, I don't even know, the kid wasn't even there, much less was he playing. Then, come Monday or Tuesday, he said, yeah, he was there, but he only played the first half. And by the way, he was dressed in a different jersey because he was wearing a repaired jersey. Well, I don't know how bad the budgets are at Lincoln Park, but you got to be kidding me. Anyway, I ain't done calling shenanigans on these Mongos just yet. You want to hear some more? Of course you do. Well, Coach Hildreth said that, here's the other one that I don't quite follow. Coach Hildreth said that he didn't arrive to the game with the team and didn't realize that that player would not even be ineligible until a league coordinator told him about 30 minutes before kickoff. He said also that he had film that shows that the wrong player had been ejected from that previous game and that he believed the player would be eligible upon his appeal. All right, well, listen, I'm no lawyer, but don't you actually have to wait for the appeal to actually happen? I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. I don't think you just get to decide that you think there's going to be an appeal, and you certainly don't get to decide for yourself that a player would be eligible if that appeal goes through. And by the way, anybody else starting to think that this guy lacks a little bit in his consistency in the BS that he's piling up here? First, he doesn't know the kid didn't play. Then he did know. Then he didn't know the kid was suspended. Oh, but then he was told by the league official. Then it's the wrong kid who got ejected. Listen, Coach Mongo, here are the facts. A kid, your kid, rightly or wrongly, got ejected from the game. Right? We know that happened. Whether it was right or wrong, that's what happened. Your league rules clearly stipulate that when this happens, the kid is suspended from the next game. Period. Now, even if you didn't know that, let's assume you're a complete idiot, and I'm not saying you're not. You could very well be a complete idiot, but let's say you are. Even if you didn't know that, somebody reminded you of all this right before the game. And here's another thing. I'm going to put my coach's hat on for a second. If a league official comes up to me before a game and reminds me that a kid is suspended for that game and cannot play, I don't know about you, what's the very next thing I'm going to do as the coach? I'll tell you what I would do. I would go find that kid and make certain that he is not dressed for the game. I probably would have told the kid, don't even come to the game. Right? And by the way, when I go looking for that kid, I'm not going to rely on his jersey number. This is starting to sound pathetic, right? I go find him in person, and I tell him directly to his face that he cannot dress and he cannot play. This may sound really logical. This is what most of us would do. You want to know who wouldn't do that? Somebody who wanted to win a game by playing an illegal and ineligible player. That's who. 855, hey coach, is the studio line here. But during the break, I got another email. I got one from Peter in Brewster. Peter writes in, hey coach Tony, a football coach has a lot of players on his team, and it's not always easy to account for them all. Perhaps you're being a little harsh on this coach. Peter, I tell you what, that thought actually did indeed cross my mind. But when you stop and think about it, especially after what I just said, even if the coach was, let's forget about him being a total idiot. Let's assume the coach was a little bit absent-minded. The league official told him before the game, 30 minutes before the game, reminded him that this specific kid was ineligible. I just don't see how something like this accidentally slips through the cracks. Doesn't make any sense. I mean, this was intentional, misleading behavior, plain and simple. Right? So am I being a bit harsh? No, not really. Not at all. I mean, by the way, Some of you may be wondering, you want to know who did know that the player was ineligible? Adam, you want to guess in this story? Who knew that the player was ineligible?
Who?
Who would be the obvious thought?
The coach?
Well, yeah, even more obvious.
The kid?
Yes! The player himself. This kid knew that he was ineligible. In other words, the league official discovered this kid changing out of his uniform in the locker and addressed the kid, and the kid basically goes, yeah, I know. He knew he was supposed to be serving a suspension. So again, what do we have here in Lincoln Park? We got ourselves a model citizen acting as a true role model as a scholar athlete. This kid knowingly put on a different uniform, and under normal circumstances, I got to tell you, I think the kid would have gotten away with it. I think these league officials did a great job because I've been at I go to my son TJ plays football, and I go to his practices, and when they're not wearing their numbers, like if they're in their practice jerseys, I'm telling you, me and the rest of the parents who occasionally watch a practice, you would think we took the short bus to practice because somebody's like, where's my kid? Who's that kid? With the helmets, and they're all roughly, give or take the same size. Unless you give your kid like a rainbow chin strap or put some decal on his helmet, you don't know who the hell they are. So I got to tell you, hats off to the league officials. But you know what? Big time shenanigans on the coach and this kid. The kid knew it. So let's assume this coach is either doing a really good job of keeping himself at arm's distance in this story, or he's really a really stupid guy because this kid almost pulled this thing off, but instead, and by the way, if he knew he was suspended, league officials, you're suspending him for the next game. If this is new information, I hope this kid's season is over, and I hope the coach's season is over. I mean, it's ridiculous. So listen, I'm not going to drop this story. If you got some more ideas on it, Adam, anything you want to do?
Yeah, I have a question. What position did this kid play?
I don't even know.
I don't even know, because, I mean, like, the way this guy's making all these lies, it makes it seem like he's like their star quarterback or something like that.
He better be.
He better be. I mean,
yeah.
If you're going to be making all these lies,
And that may be how he got caught, too. Yeah. Maybe he's a quarterback and he was wearing, like, 87 or something.
Yeah, yeah, it's not going to fly.
Tell you what, if you guys got any other thoughts on this story, you can give me a call in the studio at 855-HEY-COACH. It's 855-439-2622. But I want to jump time zones here for yet another disheartening football coach story. And again, this really stinks. I had 3 really great football coaches in studio last week, and it was just a great show. I mean, you couldn't have lined up the stars any better. These guys were followers of the hallowed religion of Tony DiMatteo, who is my football hero. And now what do I got to do this week? You football coaches, you dopes, you can't let me enjoy a week, not even 7 straight days of thinking that football coaches are going to help me change the world. I got to deal with this garbage. Well, you know what? We're going to jump to another time zone. This one comes to us from Marsville, Pennsylvania, where there was an assistant coach. Oh, man, I'm going to give you the highlights, and then we're going to have to go to a quick break. But this one comes from Marsville, Pennsylvania, where an assistant coach resigned amid allegations that he placed a bounty on a specific player from the opposing team during a game last weekend. You heard me right. The football coach put a bounty on a kid's head. Now, this is allegedly, but you know what? Is anybody going to be really surprised if we find out that this is actually true? A coach put $100 on a kid's head, basically said, knock this kid out of the game. First guy does it gets $100. I'm going to give you the specifics on the story when we get back from the break. But before we do, guys.
Coach Tony.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're with Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio this chilly Saturday morning. Anyway, we are ruining my... Can you say killing my buzz? I was on a buzz with high school football coaches last week after I had a terrific and distinguished panel of guys in here. But this week, it's back to, nausea because there were just football coaches doing the wrong things. We just finished talking about a guy who took part in, let's call it what it is, took part in a kid basically disguising himself who was supposed to be serving a suspension. But now we're going to jump from Illinois back here to the East Coast, where in Morrisville, Pennsylvania, an assistant coach resigned in the middle of a whole bunch of allegations that he put a bounty on another player's head. Fact is, Morrisville was playing New Hope Solbury last weekend when defensive coordinator Jason Bresnan, and I'll always call the coaches out by name because these guys, you know what? you need to just go away. Anyway, Bresnan happened to be a player himself at Morristown back in the mid-'90s. He was accused of telling his team that he would pay $100 to anyone who knocked, and I don't have the kid's name, nor is it important, but an opposing player out of the game. Now, by the way, go figure. This was during New Hope's 29-6 victory over Morrisville last Saturday afternoon. So I wonder if some emotions got involved in this one as well. Anyway, Coach Bresnan, of course, is denying all of this. And he was actually quoted as saying, never would I tell a kid to deliberately hurt another player. Ever. I would never jeopardize that. I would never do anything to jeopardize a kid or his future. Well, not so, according to a group of parents who happen to be working the chains on the sidelines. These parents claim to have overheard a statement they reported to be from Bresnan, placing this $100 bounty on the head of a prominent New Hope player. Now, obviously, it's a prominent player. I don't, you know what? I mean, if you're the backup kicker, I don't think anybody's going to be putting $100 on your head. Anyway, that's not the point. Coach Bresnan's response to this should not be a surprise to anybody. He says that the comment was taken out of context. According to Bresnan, he told his players that if they continued to hit that specific player and gang tackle him, his quote was, "I'll bet $100 that you're going to wear him down." I don't know. I don't know if you're buying this, but 855, hey, coach is the number here if you got something to say. But before we get to your calls, I do want to get to one of the emails that came in here from Judith, who writes in from Newtown, Connecticut, and says, "Hey, Coach Tony, I find it amusing how anyone who is so certain of his innocence would resign instead of fight for their rights. Don't you think resigning makes it look as if he's admitting guilt?" Hey, Judith, really good question. And like I said at the start of this, at the onstart of this story, that coach has already resigned. So, Judith, great question. Yes, I do think that resigning makes it look like he's admitting guilt. You want to know why? Because he's guilty. You hit the nail right on the head. If I am accused of something that I know I didn't do, I will fight. And by the way, I will openly cooperate with whatever investigation is being conducted. I have said this so many times before. My wife, who I love, if you're listening, turn off the radio because you hate it when I say this one. But you know what? You want to investigate me. Here's my fingerprints. Take my picture. You know what? Give me a pap smear if you like, because I have nothing to hide. You know, this guy, on the other hand, either has something to hide or he really just doesn't understand perception, because anybody with a brain cell between their ears knows, doesn't think, but knows at this point that this guy is guilty. Now, Bresnan isn't a complete moron, because he obviously thought through this whole idea of what does it look like if you resign. So he was asked about this point blank, and he said, and I will quote, when he was talked about the whole situation, he said, for them to take it that way, it's absurd. But I did resign for the best interest of the kids and the program. New Hope was going to push the issue further, and I didn't think it was right. Well, of course you didn't, because guess what? This is the mentality of the truly guilty. If I resign, there may be some slight shadow cast on this. No one's ever going to know for sure, and they can never really, hold me to it, right? But if they pursue it, as he says, New Hope was going to, quote, push the issue further. Well, guess what? If they push the issue further, guess what this coach knew? He knew was they were going to prove that he did it and that he put a bounty on another kid's head. Unbelievable. Adam, you got any thoughts on this?
Well, this guy's trying to do his best Buddy Ryan impression here, and he's pretty failing at it, I would say. I mean, how could he do with these, like, how are you supposed to believe this guy? I mean, you get the parents on the sidelines. I take their word over some idiot coach any day of the week. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, the only way I would question that one is if, let's put it this way, if my kid was playing third string and I thought he should start, like, they should find out who, if the kids of those parents, if they were starters, if they were non-starters. So that may have something to do with it.
It might.
But you know what? Yeah, the fact that there are parents who heard this, I'll still go back to it. If you did nothing wrong, you're not going to resign. You're just not going to resign.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the tale. Like, the giveaway right there. I mean, anyone who resigns is never innocent. Let's be honest here. Any politician that resigns, come on.
What about that guy, I forget the story, the guy who was accused of, I don't want to use the R word, but accused of pushing himself onto the maid at the hotel in New York City.
Kraus or whatever. What was his? The French guy.
So what you notice? He said it was something different about this guy. He just said, "I'm going to fight this." And there was another story, and this goes back to when I think, Adam, when you were like in third grade or something. This was like 10 years ago or something. There was a janitor in a Brooklyn school, and this stands. I hope other people remember this story. There was a janitor in a I believe it was a Brooklyn school. He was accused of molesting a little kid.
Oh.
And you know what? When he was brought out, there was something different about this guy. He wasn't covering his face. He was just constantly shaking his head, had this weird look on his face, and I remember I said to my wife, something's not right here. And people were up in arms. They were interviewing people outside the school. If they had a hammer, nails, and some wood, they would have crucified the guy. And guess what happened about 2 weeks later? This 10-year-old girl admitted she made the whole thing up.
Oh, boy.
But my point is, the guy didn't do anything wrong. Neither of these. Well, listen, the guy, I believe, had sex with the maid, but I don't think he actually forced himself on her. The fact is, when you have nothing to hide, you openly fight your case. And when the day is done, you stand by whatever decisions are made. The cowards, the wusses of the world, the Mongols of the world, like this guy Bresnan, stir it up, get it all up to a heated, climax, and then they say, and by the way, I quit. See you later. So, Bresnan, if you listen, which you're not, that's okay. You're a loser. We all hate you. Go somewhere. We're done with you. You know what I want to do? I want to wrap up with this week because first I'm going to in a second we're going to go to break, but I'm going to give us the athlete of the week is coming up, and I know that there's a young lady in Trumbull, Connecticut who's been anxiously sitting by the radio all morning waiting for me to talk about her, and I'm going to do that. But the last segment we're going to dedicate to one of my favorite topics, which is tennis brats. Watched the U.S. Open last week with my wife. She's a tennis fan, tennis player, and I was blown away with the behavior of some of these tennis players. And I want to give you a heads up because I want your thoughts on this, guys. 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. When we come back, I want to get your opinion. Why are there so many brats in tennis? Figure skating's another one. I may have just given away why that is the case, but I want to know why there are so many tennis brats. So put on your thinking caps and give me a call. But by the way, it is time for our Hey Coach Tony Athlete of the Week. And I want to mention that this week's Athlete of the Week is brought to you by the accounting and financial services firm of J. Preston Merritt, located at 136 North Stowe Place in Trumbull, Connecticut. Operating in Trumbull for more than 20 years, J. Preston Merritt concentrates on closely held businesses and individuals. They take the time to get to know their clients and work with them to set and achieve their goals. They offer business accounting and tax services, individual tax planning and tax preparation, estate planning, business startup consulting, IRS representation. Adam, you might need that. Financial statement audits, reviews, compilations, and more. So call J. Preston Merritt today at 203-375-8499. Our Hey Coach Tony Athlete of the Week is Shannon Ahern from the Trumbull High School swim team. She is going into her senior year, and when you hear what she's accomplished to date, it's very clear to see why so many eyes are on her this season. Get this. Shannon Ahern is a high school swimming national All-American, a 3-time state champion in the 200-meter individual medley and a 100-meter backstroke. She holds 4 school records. She is an academic All-State recipient, 3-year All-FCAIC, 3-year All-State. She is currently being recruited heavily by Indiana, Penn State, Yale, Ohio State, and many more. By the way, Shannon, if you go to Ohio State, beware of the $500 handshakes, please. I don't want to be talking about you next year, all right? Shannon, all kidding aside, we wish you much continued success in your senior year and in the future. Now, I want to remind you, again, this week's Athlete of the Week has been brought to you by J. Preston Merritt, a firm that has always been a big supporter of Trumbull High School swimmers and athletes. In fact, founder Preston Merritt, his daughters Courtney and Erin were former captains of the swim team right at Trumbull. So call J. Preston Merritt today at 203-375-8499. That's 203-375-8499. J. Preston Merritt, a firm that takes the time to get to know their clients and work with them to set and achieve their goals. Now, by the way, if you have an outstanding athlete or a coach that you feel deserves our highest honors for the Hey Coach Tony nomination of the week, email it to me at heycoachtony@gmail.com or just post it up on the Facebook page. Like I said before, just go look for Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. You're with Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. Stick around. Be right back.
Coach Tony.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're with Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. Having some fun this morning, and wanted to try to give you guys a bit of a heads up during the break. Because like I said, my wife, aside from being beautiful and very tolerant of a pain-in-the-butt husband, is also a very big tennis fan. So last week, tried to be a good husband. I sat on the couch with her, I cracked a beer, and I tried to enjoy the U.S. Open. And I say tried, because you know what? Listen, there's something about tennis, and like I said, I really want some help figuring this out because it just gets under my skin. Let me be fair. I occasionally play tennis, and sometimes I watch it, and I think it's a great game. But there's something about it. It's driving me nuts, and if you got the answer, I want you to call me in the studio at 855-HEY-COACH. Here's my question. Why are there so many tennis brats? It's become a term. Why are so many tennis players spoiled little babies? You know what I'm talking about? There seems to be such a sense of entitlement within the ranks of professional tennis players, and to a normal Joe Six-Pack sports fan like me, it is just nauseating. And I really struggle. To coaches, it has to be the same way. I struggle to explain it to my kids when we're watching a major televised event and one of these ridiculous things pops up. I mean, this past week, there were a few things that happened, and this is coming from the top players in the game. It actually made me embarrassed for them. So I'm going to go through a couple of these. And again, this is just from this past weekend. Let's start with tennis's golden boy, Roger Federer. Guy goes up 2-0, and I believe also had 2 match points, and then ends up losing to Djokovic, right? After the match, he's interviewed for about 10 minutes. And there were 2 terms that he kept using. And I don't know if any of you other guys or gals got this, but you may remember it when I say it. There were 2 terms that this guy kept uttering over and over during his interview, and it made him look like an idiot. The 2 terms were, first, he kept talking about lucky shots, and someone was lucky. You know what? No. Somebody kicked your butt after being down 2-0. You know what? Every sport has its pieces of luck, but this guy used the word luck like 17 times in that interview. The other thing he said in the interview, which is a truly brat mentality, he kept saying, I don't care. Are you kidding me? You're an adult. You're a professional athlete making gazillions of dollars. You had better care. Someone would ask him a good question about like a really good point, and they would be like, well, that's over. I don't care. Really, you don't care? I tell you what, if you don't care, hand over the ridiculous paycheck you got for finishing 4th. I don't care. What a baby. Then there was the other stellar young man who young tennis fans are supposed to look up to and follow, Rafa Nadal. He lost to, by the way, Djokovic. Love that guy. That guy gets pumped. He gets fans involved in it. That tennis needs that guy. But this guy Nadal is a pretty boy who butchers the English language, and I'm not going to hold that against him. But he lost to Djokovic as well in the finals. And if you watched it, you can tell me if I'm wrong. That guy was sleepwalking through the last few games. Like a spoiled brat who just got a toy taken away from him. He knew it was over. He really knew it was over. And a couple of times, and here's a subtlety, he was halfway trying to show the crowd that his leg hurt and that he wasn't even going to give an effort. The last 2 points of that match, I could have played better points than that loser did. It was this spoiled thing, boo-hoo, I lose, so I'm just going to quit. Ask my wife. See how I'm raising my voice now? Well, you can't ask my wife because she hides pretty well. She's embarrassed to be my wife. But if you ask her and you bump into Mrs. Hey Coach Tony, ask her. I was jumping up and down, screaming at the TV set, just begging for this loser to just man up. Show some dignity, for God's sake. You're playing for the finals in a Grand Slam event. Man up and show some dignity. Well, needless to say, Rafa Nadal didn't hear me. But and the worst one, and this is starting to bother me because I was a huge fan of Serena Williams for a long time. As a younger sibling of four brothers, I always empathized and sympathized with Serena when she always used to lose to Venus. So I was a huge Serena fan for a long, long time. Anyway, Serena got a point taken away from her for yelling during an opponent's swing. Now, this may or may not have been as controversial a call as some may think, but the way she addressed the judge was ridiculous. Serena basically said she thought she hit a winner, and so she celebrated the point. It happened to be that the girl got a racket on the ball, and she did scream before the girl got a racket on the ball. Whether it's right or whether it's wrong, there's a rule in place, which means you lose the point. That's it. Now, I don't know if any of you heard the interview when this lovely Serena decided to show what a great role model she is for our young daughters. Did you hear what she said? I'll quote it. She said to this official, "If you ever see me walking down the hall, look the other way because you're out of control. You're totally out of control. You're a hater, and you're unattractive inside. Who would do such a thing? And I never complain. Wow, we're in America last I checked. Can I get a water, or am I going to get violated for a water? Really, don't even look at me. I promise you, don't look at me because I am not the one. Don't look my way." What garbage. First of all, I can't believe I heard that middle part right. Did she say, "I never complain"? Maybe she thinks that tennis fans are really, really stupid or have a very short memory. And again, I am not a big tennis fan, but even I remember just last year, didn't she lose a match point for a verbal tirade that she unleashed on an official? I think so. Anybody remember the "I'll shove that ball down your throat" line that she used? Come on. And by the way, you know what she got for all this? Adam, do you know what she got for this? You know what her penalty was, her punishment?
Oh, man.
You're from Briarcliff. You guys, you're a tennis group, right?
Yeah, it's not really my sport. I don't really watch it too much, but maybe she got a fine.
She did get a fine. How much do you think the fine was?
I'm going to say $20,000.
First of all, that would be a little lenient. $2,000.
What?
She got a $2,000 fine.
Oh,
that chick probably spends more on a manicure.
Oh, come on.
I mean, isn't that ridiculous?
You got to get it right, tennis. That's garbage.
Tennis doesn't want to get it right.
Ugh.
Tennis doesn't. It's painful to watch to begin with. So now what you have is these people. Listen, if a baseball guy or a football guy physically threatened an official, match over, see you later. See, baseball players, listen, I'm not defending them. We act like morons, especially the managers. We act like idiots. We go on tirades and we put on shows, but guess what happens? You get thrown out of the game.
Yeah, how did they not just end the match right? I mean, that sounded like a legitimate threat. Like, I'll
shove the ball down your throat.
Yeah. If I were the umpire, I'd just be like, "You're done. Game, set, match. It's over."
The only reason last year is like people say she lost a match because of her tirade last year. Well, the only reason she lost a match, it was match point, so she lost the point. Tennis, you know what? I'll use another line I always use. Take the bone out of your head, stick it in your back, and start holding these athletes accountable for their BS crybaby actions. But, Adam, let me ask you this, because this is really, you can help save a life here, man, because I'm going to jump off a bridge if somebody doesn't solve this one, Adam.
All right, let's hear it.
All listeners are on you, man.
Oh,
why does it, and I'll give you a hint. Figure skaters are bratty also. And there are some other, but I don't want to give too much of it away. Why does this mentality proliferate with tennis players and figure skaters? Come on, man.
Oh, God.
We got Jeopardy music we can play, because I guarantee you're going to screw this up.
I will, and to be quite honest, I have no idea what's going through your head right now. I don't know. Don't
worry about my head. What do you think?
Man, damn. I don't know. I really have no idea.
All right, way to go.
I know.
If you read about Coach Tony driving off the road at 84 into like the Connecticut River, you know it's Adam's fault. No, but all kidding aside, I got some thoughts on this. If we can get a caller to call in with it, you got about 30 seconds before you lose your shot at the Hey Coach Tony coffee mug. But there is something inherent in tennis, and there's something inherent in figure skating, to a lesser degree in gymnastics. And if you think about what all these sports have in common, it may actually come to you. So I'm probably going to give about another 10 seconds.
Wait, I might have an idea.
Okay, what is it?
Is it because it's the individual?
Yes!
Okay. I can't believe I didn't. That should have been the first thought through my head. All right.
You don't get a. You know what? You can get a mug. You're probably the guy
Yes.
who stole my mug from the radio station anyway.
I wasn't me. I promise.
But Adam, thank you. I mean, I had to give you hints, and that's,
I
But
should have.
here's the thing: there were other things involved too. But tennis and gymnastics and figure skating, these are individual sports. They are high pressure individual sports where, let's face it, in other team sports, if I'm playing a game and I make a mistake, my teammate can pick me up. So this isn't really a knock against these individual sports. It's just a statement of the facts. I make a mistake in a game, Adam can make up for my mistake. The next game, he makes a mistake, I can make it up for him. And by the way, you know how this is proven? You ever watch doubles?
Yes.
Do you ever see the tirades in doubles matches?
Mm-hmm.
You're not no, actually, you don't see them that much, Adam. You're really screwing up the show today. But we're going to kill your mic. No, but the point is something about having somebody there. It's a little bit of a system of checks and balances, and there's also this: I'm not alone in this. So every time there's a bad call, you can say it's a bad call against my team, or you can say that I take as a personal insult. It's a bad call against me, and it affects me and nobody else, and so I'm the one who's going to react. There are other things, and not the least of which, again, Adam's a Briarcliff kid, so he comes from some money.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of what car he drives to the station, he comes from money. But the fact of the matter is, tennis is a fairly affluent sport. Now, someone's going to say, well, the Williams sisters are not affluent. You know what? You're absolutely right. And that's why the Compton just came pouring out of Serena every time she gets into a high-pressure situation. But there is a brattiness. Serena gets a little street when she does this. But for the most part, there's a very bratty, I'm better when they argue, isn't it this, it's this whole, I'm better than you, you're just an umpire, you're just a line judge. A lot of that happens because there's this tremendous sense of entitlement. And, there's a lot of money that goes into tennis lessons and figure skating lessons. There are hours and hours of individual dedication that take place here. And the fact of the matter is, I think that sense of entitlement, which, by the way, all youth sports and all youth parents have, but something about, Adam, you finally nailed it, something about the individual nature of those sports that I really think brings out the brattiness of these kids. And you know what? My kids like to play tennis. They hate to watch it. Thank God. Because I will tell you, my daughter, she had a guy who gave her some lessons, and he started calling her Serena. And she started walking around the house going, I'm Serena, I'm Serena. And finally I said, no, you're not. You're not Serena. Please pick somebody else. But, all right, well, listen, I think that's just one of the things I've been meaning to talk about for a while. And I think I completely emptied the tanks on that last 10 minutes of tirade.
Definitely sounds like it was something that's really bothering you. Festering.
Either that or I'm having a rough week at home and I just need a vent. But, hey, by the way, we're going to wrap up and we're going to talk a little bit about, by the way, if anyone has not heard, Boise State's football program, because of some infractions that they have had, are going to see a reduction in football scholarships between 2011 and 2013. And this is for some improperly housing, a couple of seasons for improperly housing prospective student athletes. This was going back to the summers of 2005 to 2009. The program was cited for violating the bylaws 13.2.1, 13.2.1.1, and 13.5.1, which means what to you guys? Nothing. But they basically involve recruiting violations, impermissible housing, and impermissible transportation. So Boise State's going to see a reduction in their scholarships. How many scholarships do you think they're going to lose, Adam? Chance to redeem yourself. I'll give you a heads up.
Right.
They get 85 scholarships.
I'm going to say, how many are they losing?
No, they're going to give him more scholarships, guy. They're losing some scholarships.
I would say 20.
All right, you should have a job in the NCAA because that probably would make sense. For violating known NCAA codes, Boise State's going to see a reduction from 85 scholarships to 82 scholarships.
Wow, oh man.
I don't know how
it's really going to destroy that program.
You think SMU got destroyed back in the day for the death penalty.
This is one reason I can't get into college sports. It's just it's just so corrupt. It's such a joke. I can't deal with it.
Now you want to laugh. That's not even the biggest story going around Boise State's campus.
Oh boy, what's that?
Apparently, we're talking about tennis. The tennis and the track programs wanted in on those NCAA infractions. The school was cited for multiple violations in 5 sports involving more than 75 high school prospects or high school and junior college prospects and student athletes from 2005 to 2010. All right, guys, the rule breaking's never going to stop in the NCAA. I hope I didn't scare the young children with the tirade this week, but you know what? It was a lot of fun. Hey, folks, another quick hour of my life gone by. Thanks for listening in. Be sure to tune in every Saturday at 9 a.m. Check me out on Facebook at Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. Again, every Saturday, 9 a.m. on ESPN Radio. We'll talk to you next week.